Du das ruhig anmoderieren.
Okay. Jetzt empty. Welcome, dear visitors, readers, listeners, and watchers, friends of knowledge management and of Sascha and my bad improvisation skills.
Mine are good.
No.
Yes.
Today we haven't prepared any particular topic, but there happened a lot of things in the community, mostly in the comments and by email, which triggered questions this week about about what's wrong with all the people who want to automate the Zettelkasten work away from their lives, for example, and who want to make the application so smart that they basically just have to tell them the web address and the rest happens magically. Happens magically. Even the paper writing, book writing, and what have you. This is one possible topic, but as always, you're very welcome to tell us in the live chat what comes to mind that we should talk about today.
What?
Do you agree with the selection of topics?
Yes. This was the main question of the week for us, both of us today. This week, because I stumbled over a theme on feature request or train of thoughts or something in this direction. I have the feeling that many people try to tweak the software and the method or the application of the method also in the direction that they have not so much to do it and outsource the creativity to the archive or to the Zettelkasten. And I think that is a big misconception about the Zettelkasten method, because you have to do a lot, and the Zettelkasten method you can separate it just in layers. What do you want? You want to think in a manner that thoughts manifestate themselves in written text, so you can communicate them in a written form. That means, for example, writing a thesis, writing a paper, writing a book, or whatnot. And this is what you really want to do. This is the core of everything. You want to do knowledge work. So you want to work and produce knowledge, because as a result of the work. Okay, what do you do? And what do you do? The main theme, the concept of knowledge work is to separate structure and content of knowledge. This is the analysis part. What does it mean? For example, you have an argument. Let's say I make a modus ponens. Wird das so ausgesprochen? Ich hoffe nicht. Ich hoffe. A modus ponens. That means I say every human has 2 arms and 2 legs. Christian has 2 arms and 2 legs. Therefore, Christian is a human. So what do we have? We have the structure of the argument. We have was heißt Ober- und Untersatz? We have 2 premises, and we have the conclusion. So what I have done with my analysis now is I have named the structure. Modus ponens is the formal name of this type of argument, and the content. The content is the what is in the propositions, what is in the premises, what is in the conclusion. So having 2 arms and 2 legs is just one part of the content, and being a human and everything else. And now this is quite, it's too simple to be very mind blowing, what I said, but every piece of knowledge work works the same. So if we analyze empirical data, then we also separate the content from the structure. And the Zettelkasten method is designed, or as we thought it out, is designed to follow these steps of analysis, for which means basically dividing content and structure. And now the transfer to the theme. Can you outsource it to the archive, to the Zettelkasten, to technology? And I say no, because this is the thing that a computer cannot do unless it has a very insanely AI, like in cyber systems or something like that. And was ist Klammer auf? Egal. I mean, this is a reference to the Terminator. And when you can't do that, when you have to do that manually, then it is clear that you cannot outsource any of the work to the archive. So what, or to the Zettelkasten. So what is the job of the Zettelkasten? It is to manifest the steps you do internally outside of your brain in the computer. That means if you separate in your head content and structure, you just in the optimum way, you just have to type very few keys, and then you have separated the structure and the content. And that is what we, I have not prepared the archive. Now you can see here a part of my personal Zettelkasten. Here, wow.
I don't think it's visible.
It's not visible.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that is our my Zettelkasten, but I would change the folders so we can have. Christian, don't you want to entertain us while I'm here?
I could try to juggle something, but I'm not.
I can juggle my balls on your forehead.
That's not juggling, that's knocking. Also, this now I have to change the rating of the video to PG something 16 above.
Unless I really pull out my balls, I think it's not necessary. So we have,
maybe we can say balls.
What we did the last time. We have, this is a structure Zettel. Let's say we have here wheat and nutrition. And we basically created it from all the content. So we have here, we have here several links to other nodes. And why is this a structured structure node? This in the heading is the conclusion. Wheat is deadly. Or in a slightly more precise way, wheat is not a very good food source. These are all the premises. Wheat contains too much starch. Okay, not very informative. Also not. Oh, we have no content. Okay, let's assume there are some studies, some empirical data, some evidence for these statements. Now we have here in the heading, we have a statement, and we have three premises also as statements. And normally we would link to the link would contain some evidence for the truth of the statement. So this is just an inductive argument, which means we have just a premise and we have a number of one conclusion and a number of premises, which together does not imply the necessity of truth. That means wheat is not with necessity deadly, but because of these three premises, which can also be truth and false and whatnot.
But you, in this case, I mean, let's imagine that the wheat does contain gluten. Zettel node has a lot of studies in there, and I mean, it's the containment of gluten itself doesn't need a lot of empirical studies. You can just ask a biochemistry student to split it open and then see what the analysis produces. So it's not, yeah, it's probably very, it's probably something that you won't doubt generally.
Yeah, okay.
So the evidence rating, so to speak, would be very high. But this here, from the structure itself, like when you look at the node list, wet is deadly and wet contains gluten. Both are claims. Wheat contains gluten. Both are claims. So how do you see what kind of argument you're making? How do you
okay, I
differentiate?
we can make another zettel and then we can just form a modus ponens. All we have here, premise 1, all foods that contain anti-nutrients are suspicious. Thank you. Wheat does contain anti-nutrients. Therefore, wheat is
the autocorrection is better than I would have imagined.
So wheat is suspicious. That is a much more precise argument, also a modus ponens. And now we can see wheat contains gluten. This would be evidence for. I wouldn't write it like that. It's just for more overview. So we have wheat contains gluten. Okay, gluten. It has also to be stated and backed up with evidence that gluten is an anti-nutrient.
Wouldn't that be evidence for premise 2?
Oh, and of course, wheat gets processed to opiates. That's processed in the intestines, which is also an anti-nutrients property.
That's the same idea.
Why?
Maybe you did not copy.
Oh, I'm an idiot. So. And how do we name this node? Suspicious wheat. So now we have done it a bit more formal. So first thing, wheat is suspicious. Now we have now we have something something is very robust. So wheat, it's a but for more explanation, this is very robust for next to every food that contains because every food contains some sort of anti-nutrients, but anti-nutrients are more usually something that is aimed towards grains and legumes and some sort of that. So this is just a small demo of how you separate content and structure. So this is, and because of that we have the difference between structure nodes and structure nodes that contain mainly content. So this would be, as Christian said, this.
I can't see it anymore. Someone turned away the cameras.
This should be more perhaps an analysis of a biochemist or something like that. So this is more like the pure evidence, nothing that contains any structure, but it can. So you can here also separate the content from the structure, and this is true for every bit of knowledge. And now we have here the structured Zettel. This would be the first part of the argument. Let's say first part, second part. So the first part is just to claim that wheat is suspicious. The second part would contain the more specific premises for this, because wheat is deadly. The statement needs to be qualified. When I say the sky is blue, the sky is red or green or purple or something like that, then this is not something I would discuss. So this first part is to qualify the discussion if wheat is deadly, and the second part is then the precise premises or the specific premises. And here you can see again the first part, second part. This is a two-part structure. We have first the qualifying part. So what we wanna say is really that relevant. And here we fill the second part with the real meat and stuff for the argument. And again, this is nothing that a software can do for you, because you are the researcher. And if the software can do it for you, we have something very futuristic and no need for humans anymore on the planet. And that is also the reason why manually links like this, and not just the searches of the text or something to group Zettel, are very important, because this are like the traces of your thoughts. So my thought started here as just a general claim: wheat is deadly, and my train of thoughts that I presented here had was heißt niederschlagen? Manifests itself here in the structure of the Zettels, in this node. I mean, so this is just a little demonstration how knowledge work really works, and yeah, that's basically the main reason now why much automatization of the creativity is not possible. So we shifted away, and yeah, Christian and I were agreed that many of the fantasies and the romantic view on the Zettelkasten as a real thinking piece, intelligent second person and humunculus that you created, it doesn't hold quite the reality check. End of my story.
Nice story, bro. There are a couple of things that come to mind that you've scratched on, like where does creativity come from? And you said, okay, it couldn't be the software itself because it cannot be creative because you need someone to have creative thought and then create notes from that. So this artificial intelligence stuff is one limitation. Since it doesn't exist, it cannot happen. But then it's a pretty far stretch to go from there to the search alone doesn't suffice, that you need the links, the manual links in the notes to make sense of all of this. I mean, of course I agree with your conclusion, and we covered this in the last couple of years on our blog, multiple times. You know, when we talked about giving IDs to notes, what's that good for? When we covered what kind of ties, weak and strong ties between notes exist in the note archive. As a quick recap, well, just the sameness of the words is very, very weak. It's just like more like accidental connection, where tags group things together, but still not as strong as direct links between one note and another. And yeah, our claim throughout the years was that these manual links provide extra value. And then last week someone came along and asked, is this really true? I mean, what else except like on a model level can we say? What else can we say except, of course, it's true because the manual linking is the manifestation of a certain thought, of an association, of one particular association between notes, and not just something that you can infer from a group of stuff. Maybe let me phrase it differently because that was quite confusing. I think in a post from 2 years ago, I said it like this: that when you use the full text search and end up with tags and filter by tags and stuff like that, maybe in addition to just the full text, then you end up having a list of notes which you have to read every time in maybe chronological or alphabetical order, doesn't matter, but you have to read it every time, and this is a lot of cognitive load because you have to filter manually, and the manual connections are manifestations of the filtering that you did in the past already for your future self. But if I recall, you had a different, an additional information, an additional point to this, because you said, okay, you know, it's cognitive load, okay, but on the level of the Zettelkasten method, there's still some other reason. Do you recall anything like that?
No. Perhaps I just don't have to recall, but reconstruct it. Wow. I think we have different layers of structure in your archive. Let's imagine your archive is a brain, and how the brain remembers is not quite like a storage, like was ist Festplatte?
Hard drive.
Like a hard drive. So you don't put something in your brain and then put it out. But in every recall process, you have a consolidation and reconsolidation. That means every remembering change the memory. And so now I get the joke. Huh? There was no joke. I think there was a joke. So let's 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 just pretend this thing here is a memory, and you try to remember something. And I,
For everyone who's just listening and driving car right now, it was an empty list of nothing.
So just try to. I'm remembering. Okay, something with wheat, and I want to have everything um, what what has something to do with wheat. So we have here different baking methods for different breads. We have wheat. Wheat is deadly. Wheat contains gluten. Wheat contains too much starch, gets processed with opiates, and suspicious wheat. What do we do out of that? So let's imagine we don't have the suspicious wheat node and the wheat is deadly node. We don't have this node, so we have only these three nodes. That means you see that and think, okay, baking methods for different breads. Oh, if I use wheat, we have here some problems eventually. So you need to know that these are problematic. So what do you do out of that? What else do you do out of that that other than form this node? So you list these as premises and have this conclusion. Because this conclusion you made in this particular case because you remembered these three nodes. And in memory, the conclusion would also form a new memory token. So that means this have to form. And if you don't form this node, this thought process, this thought process would be lost. So in 2 years, and imagine thousands of nodes, in 2 years, you search for whatever reason for wheat, and you again see that, oh, bread processing, what's that? Oh, wheat is some kind of bad, so wheat is deadly. So you just manifest this train of thought in this node, and have this thought manifested in manually set node direct links. And there are many other, several other reasons to have this, because something, this could be the beginning of a book. And let's call the book Wheat Belly. And imagine, oh, I don't know the author, it's a real book. And this can be, this could be the outline of the book. So you expand, 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 and a structured zettel can be an outline, because an outline is nothing more than a structure. And so text cannot fulfill this need, because text cannot give any structure. Text gives just a list. And now you can argue that you can use tags to form a structure. Let's imagine you use a software where you can filter all nodes towards one keyword, and then filter this selection to another, and so you get like a structure. But again, if you don't write it down and write the thought in a node, this structure gets lost, and you don't have it. You have to write it anyhow. And the productivity of the archive will increase the more structure or the more differentiation you make between structure and content. And yeah, therefore, I hope this is an additional thought and not something.
Yeah, having heard the example, like today you have these three nodes about these three properties of wheat. Wheat is processed as opiate and contains too much starch. You know, these factual things. You see them and then you think, oh, it doesn't sound too good. And that's the conclusion, but you don't take note of the conclusion. Like, oh, it sounds like a bad idea to do too much with this grain-based stuff. Then you carry on, and years later, like you said, you see the same notes again and have a similar conclusion. But this time, even though you don't write and didn't write the structured Zettel note with all the argument structure in it, you still think, oh wait, it's a great idea for a book. I want to write a book about it. And then you take hold of the conclusion, this wheat thing doesn't sound like a good idea. I cannot imagine what happens next if you like forbid to set direct links. I mean, as a kind of thought experiment, if you say, well, full text search is enough, it suffices to do the job, I will never ever allow myself to do direct links. What would a person in this situation do? Then you would have these three properties of wheat from 2016, 17, and then this new node from the future, 2020, maybe, which contains the thought, the sweet thing is not a good idea as a food source, but he's not allowed to link them. But they still have the same tags. So I think if you end up with four nodes, where one is wheat is suspicious and maybe even deadly, and then you type in, oh, I want to expand on this thought, it sounds crazy and revolutionary, and oh my god, the whole world will collapse if this goes public, and I'm going to be rich when I write this book. And then you have the other three old property-based nodes. It's still kind of okay to handle that if you search for the tag wheat, hashtag wheat. But if you then expand on the...
I don't think so, because now it's okay, because we have just a couple of nodes. But
it's a problem of scale.
Yeah. First the scaling, but second is this work you have to do anyhow. Because it's just a matter of, do you have the structure in your archive, or do you want to have an external structure? So you can write a book right away, and I did it with the Zettelkasten method, or we did the first draft of the Zettelkasten method. We did without any structured settles, but or structure nodes. But we did the same process externally, not in our archive, but then in a separate file that wasn't in our archive. But most of the work that you do, I start over. The more work you do in before, the more possibilities, the more you can pick and choose from for later work, because this is very, very, very small. Normally, a book has or a small book has between 100 and 200 notes, and
with 100 words per note.
Yeah, and this is just too much. I just will show you. What?
20,000 words is still very, very small.
Yeah, it's just the notes. You have to make a book out of it, and then it doubles. Okay.
Back to the real archive.
Yeah, this is my archive. Can you see it? Yes. So we go to. It's okay. I have to translate it. Modernity as illness is this translation. Moderne als Krankheit in German. So here we have all the. This is just not. This is unsorted. Here we have all the things that go into the book from a very top level. These are dedications, introduction, then the problem with finding the right concepts, diagnosis and summary, then solution, how illness is treated, and how modernity as illness is treated, and then context of the book, perspective on society, in putting it in the order or in the structure of the history of research, and the position of the book relative to my other work. Now let's get into the one other setting. So you can here see this is a very, very overblown note. And what now I go, let's say, in the part of internet social media. Then
So this note is about examples for modernity
Yeah.
and illness.
So now I have an overview over social media. This is also in my
How many words are in there? Can you talk the word count?
no
Okay. Come on. And we have
1050.
for a list of links, not too shabby.
Yeah, and this is just one part of the argument contains 4 parts. Let's say here pathology. I know that I didn't link to pathology in this note, but I have to do it. And pathology is, now we have here a general overview over the concept of psychic pathology. So we have general concept or general concept work, then we have psychic pathology as a non-structured overview Zettel. And you can see this is just one book. I don't know, I have no overview over the book, but it's not handled, I cannot handle it with just with nice tags or something like that. I need to be very precise, and that's the main reason, or one reason, why this is the main reason why tags don't work, because in this scale, and it comes very fast, you have no overview over any of the projects or any of the departments of your archive. And another thing is, you do this work anyhow, and you do it constantly. You think, and have thoughts about structure. If you don't put the structure in your archive, then it's lost thoughts. And I would never have the possibility to write a book with this complexity, with this depth of argument or argumentation, without any of the structure I presented to you. And it goes much deeper. That was just on the superficial level. And this is, yeah, a thing. Oh, Sander, Mr. Anderson.
I'm going through these so you can
Yeah.
finish the sentence. But I have to come very close. It's small font.
Yeah. This was just a demonstration, because most of the thoughts in this direction, why I grab always my boobs. I don't know. it's just my natural.
Yeah,
it's
maybe
not
you
my
like
subject.
them now that they're not that small anymore. Totally understand that.
Okay, I lost my train of thoughts. So tags are not sufficient.
You
Use
could-
direct links.
One interesting thing that popped up is when you first started the search, you typed #MK for modernity as an illness, the project tag. I think.
Yeah.
And then there were very little, only little notes. But once you went to what was it? Psychic pathologies?
No, social media.
Social media. Yeah. Then the scope expanded because MK was not part of the text. It's not project specific anymore.
Yeah, I can. It was just a shortcut. I extracted. I think a couple of months ago, in this project, everything was contained. Not the overview of social media, but it was a note with I don't know how long it was, and it was quite hard for me to navigate in this note. So I separated it and gave it the intended book structure because I know that this will be a book, and on the top level, I tagged it with a double hash MK of modernity or moderne als Krankheit.
Oh, what a nice pronunciation,
Yeah,
you German fella.
I'm super nice. So I just gave it a double hash. So when I need to go in the book, it's more overview in the list on the top level, and after that it expands just naturally. So and I searched. It's not natural for me to search in this the double hash MK unless I want to have an overview over the project. So normally I would go in the main Zettel, in the main node. You see in the beginning. This is then the top level just. So it's just a trick to have to don't click as much.
I didn't listen to everything you said.
Yeah.
Did I get this right? That the social media overview is at the moment fully contained in the Modernity as an Illness project, or is it just overlapping a bit in some social media
Okay,
stuff?
I didn't listen.
Let's draw a Venn diagram. You cannot see it at the moment, but I will put it in front of the camera. Imagine elevator music. Oh, nice, thanks. So now that you've seen these,
What's SM?
Social media. This is Modernity as Illness, Moderne als Krankheit.
Yeah.
So here's the thing for you. I don't know how close I have to go. Okay. So my question is the social media overview thing fully contained in the Modernity as Illness project, or do they just overlap and you only use that part for the project at the moment?
I can say the question is not very important because it's with necessity. It's the first one because I link to the overview to the social media node, and that means everything that I wrote on social media and I discovered for social media in my Zettelkasten, in my archive, is relevant for modernity as illness. But I will pick and choose, and my first answer is more important. I don't care. I just go from bit to bit to bit, and in the end, I will let myself surprise, which is not the creativity part, but it's more the result of not having any overview of a big project and being surprised of the scope of the work. So it's not the surprise is not the creativity. The creativity is every step on every bit of work I put in there, and the archive, the Zettelkasten method, helped me by manifesting or holding to the structure and to the microstructure elements that I put together, and give me very much material to pick and choose from. I read.
Yeah. So the thing, while Sascha reads, I try to explain what I had in mind, and I'm not quite sure what the answer is for me right now. It seems that at the moment, because the social media research is closely related to the book research, that the as the book advances and as the social media overview advances, both grow together. So the containment of one and the other is I understand that. But maybe if you don't finish this project in the next 2 years, say, and you read more about social media and expand the social media overview, by accident, the modernity as an illness project will grow too. And I imagine you will have to remember which node is contained in which project, so that you don't say, oh, this overview of social media stuff is getting out of hand. It's so much, I will split it up into this and that and this, and maybe I will name this overview to something else. And then if you go back to the modernity as an illness project in a few years, click on the link, and then see this new thing, then you again have to figure out, okay, what did I have in mind when I put this link down there? And you can't remember maybe that it was a rather short overview a couple of years ago, but then changed. So the yeah, so the project changes by accident when you change parts of it.
Yeah, in this case, not really. I can imagine that could be the case, but social media, the overview node of social media is just a broad general view on social media. And when I really work and focus on the book Modernity as Illness, I would just review the overview and pick and choose what is relevant. For example, I have some notes on the company strategy and some business things about Facebook, the Facebook incorporation. That's not important for modernity as illness. I don't know. Modernity as illness is more of a principle of the modernity, which manifests itself in several brain structures that I compare. I compare fast food, social media, internet porn, and consume, shopping, like shopping illness, drugs, and several concepts. And I'm pretty confident that they all have the similar structure in the brain, and then I make conclusions out of it, and then the book goes on and on and on. And therefore,
So that because
it's more like a menu. The link has not the same value as some specific links or something like that. Like in the dedication. When I click on the dedication, there are no nodes, but the dedication node is just specific to the project, and a specific to the project link context that you saw around the link that were on the project files. So it's not clear and very it's not everything has the same value or goes in the same direction.
So this is some kind of workflow convention, you could say. Like if you link to a specific Zettel node, then you know, okay, I wanted this piece exactly as it is. But if you link to an overview node, then you say, okay, I want some parts of it which are relevant in the context, but I also know that I will have to pick which one applies when I combine them.
Yeah, and in this case, it's too clear for me to be relevant. I don't get confused. But in other cases, I put link context. So I give myself why the reasons why I linked it. So sometimes it's just the link contains the context of my new thought, so that I can not remember but reread why I thought this to this particular node, or I will in this example I would write, okay, review the overview over social media for relevant nodes, especially, and then I would go to a mechanistic department which have all the nodes to the feedback loop for several areas of the brains and reward systems, and so on and so forth. So I don't get too unspecific when the project is very broad. So I have much broader projects and much broader clusters of my archive, but then I'm very more specific to why I link, to how I link, and therefore. So I would say treat yourself like an idiot, because in the future you are an idiot and cannot understand what you write there. So be as clear as possible in the content, but also as clear as possible when you link notes, when you give yourself structure with titles, everything. The more you treat yourself like an idiot, the better the archive is. As a general rule of thumb, you can just sometimes violate. When we,
Yeah, last couple of minutes, Sanders' amazing workflow question.
Mr. Anderson. Perhaps with a little more tension. Mr.
So,
Anderson.
for anyone who cannot see the live chat because it goes away once the video is published, Mr. Anderson asked a question like, if I read something and want to create notes from it, extract the knowledge, the information, and make knowledge of it. For example, one of the questions is, should I create one note for the whole article, which also applies to, should I create one note as a book overview to match the external sources structure, or should I split it up into parts like Sascha talked about, evidence, arguments, stuff like that, just the parts, and then leave the rest, which I don't need, alone. And another question by him is if we add citations. And
okay, let's concentrate on the first part.
Yeah.
So, what do you say?
For the first part, I would say, as I've always said in the past on the blog, it depends. It depends because for things like my pet peeve from philosophy back in the day, Immanuel Kant, I just wanted to understand what his philosophy as a whole is about. So, and I had huge problems understanding anything he wrote. There were so many terms I didn't know, and then he used words in a seemingly weird way because the book was written 200 something years ago. And all of these problems made reading and understanding it really hard. But I had a feeling of what was going on, but you can't work and write about feelings when you're trying to do science or philosophy. So just try to extract everything I could and then make sense of it. And I ended up for his book, and I still like that approach for that particular book, for the Critique of Pure Reason. Everything I found out, everything I could pin down, every source I could track, every reference he made, especially when he quoted or criticized Plato, I created a single note for this piece of information, because of the atomicity of notes. This single piece of information as a knowledge piece was important, but I also put it into a note where I recaptured the structure of Kant's book itself, because I knew I would have a hard time understanding the book when I read it, when I was going to read it a few years later. So I can look. So I wanted to have something that I could have open next to the book when I read and say, okay, now I'm in chapter 2.5.3. What do I have on this? And I wanted to have an answer on this question. And the best thing I could come up with was to create a structure Zettel note, so to speak, with a chapter outline, and then putting the notes under this chapter heading, and then see them and look what I got, and maybe even see there in between, in the comments that I leave or would have left, what else I was missing back then, and maybe then have a new research topic to tackle in the future. So for this particular book, I did. I created another note that followed the book outline, but I don't do this in general for articles just because I want to capture the article essence, so to speak. in my archive. I don't care about most of the things. When I read articles, I end up taking just yeah. Let's imagine some number like 10% out of it, and the other 90% I don't know what to do with it right now. So I just leave them alone. Take up the parts that I can use, reference the article, and then have just these atoms, these molecules floating around my Zettelkasten without the relation to the article as a whole, without the backlinks to an article node, because I don't create an article node. So that's the usual thing I do, which is kind of because most of the stuff I read is either at the moment stuff I read on the web for programming topics, or fundamental principles I extract from textbooks which are designed for teaching, and where following the outline later doesn't make much sense because the book is already made to be very atomic.
Yeah, my answer is quite similar. I differentiate between articles and articles, books, and so on that are important to me as an article. Like, for example, I would say important for me is original sources from Nietzsche or philosophers like that, or core books like Anti-Fragile from Nassim Taleb, and then then I would always create create a note that follows the arguments of the book, and then it's quite simple. I use subsections and subheadings for the several chapters, and then I link to the Zettel and link to the note and write the page right behind it. For example, now let's assume I write something about flow from Harley. I don't write his last name because it's just a pain. And okay, then I would say introduction. Then I open the book, create the link in before. Let's say flow is cool. Then create the Zettel out of it. And then flow is cool because coolness flows with the cool. Then and that's the second part of the question. So let's assume that it's in page 10, but it's with Romanian numbers. And this would be the first Zettel of the book, Flow from Mihaly. And then I go back, and here is the thing. And then I go on and on and on here. Chapter 1, chapter 2, and so on and so forth. But what is if I want to have a formal Zettel, a structured Zettel about flow? So I would form this. Did I have this umgestellt? Yeah, I don't know.
Nobody's here. I'm sorry.
Okay. So this funny Ü is my short tag, or my cue for overview. So which I basically did is I formed the Zettel, then have put this link to it with a page number. Then I wrote this article. So this is my reference. This is just a multi-markdown literature reference style of thing. And when I would have an overview over the flow,
You have to rename one of the nodes because the IDs are duplicate. yes.
No, I mean no.
But yes.
Yes, but I mean no. Okay, now
The abacus still contain the to help.
so the conclusion is for this small beginning of the flow from Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, or Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, is that I do both. Um, this is the note I go to when I really work with the book, and then I fill it and fill it and fill it. But I also, if I create this a new note, I go through my archive and see how I can link this note. For example, it would be important to link oh, to link to this note in the overview over flow, because I want to have an overview over the phenomenon flow, and not only Mihaly wrote about this phenomenon, but this could be an important book for me, and I go to it back and reread it, or uh, just try to criticize it or something like that, and therefore I have both. Um,
So when you start with a research topic like this, and let's imagine this would be the first and only book you read about it, you had nothing from the web or something, then you would end up in a situation where this flow is cool node was created, and you put it into the right place in this structured Zettel that follows Miali's book, book's outline, and you would create, if it didn't exist already, an overview, because you think, okay, this flow topic is so cool, I think I'm going to collect more of this. Then you have two overviews, two overviews with different purposes, but which contain just one link and look kind of similar.
yeah.
So this double bookkeeping at the beginning is, just what happens.
But it depends. For example, I read a book that it was called Burnout by Digital Burnout, I think it was called, a German book, and I just used this an overview note um, to really dig into the book, and then I went through the notes and integrated them into the rest of my archive, and then the book itself was not very important, and I made the not really the mistake, but I just deleted the overview note for the book, because I knew I never go back to the book because it was not that important. But I could have let it in the archive because it doesn't hurt. So I not often, or it's not with necessity that I do this double bookkeeping, and that's that's the thing with the archive. You don't, or you have it's a quite difficult question, how meticulous you have to be, because sometimes I just have an overview, but it's more like an unstructured list, because I want to go back to it in some later point of time, and get the structure out of it. Sometimes I just make to do for me to make a structure out of the tag or whatever. It's a flowing system, and like the brain remembers in a more fluid way, and always reforms the memory, and always is not very not like a hard drive, not like in and output, like mechanical. You have to accept that everything flows a bit, everything is a little bit unprecise, um, and just deal with this, deal with the consequence, um, because think more of it. Um, yeah, think more of it. Um, like an add-on. The archive is an improvement of an inefficient process. So, of course, you want to maximize the effect of the archive, but the more you invest in being meticulous, the more energy you drive away from being creative, writing notes, and everything that really matters. Because you don't want to masturbate on archive, but do knowledge work. And yeah, then the conclusion of this is just yeah, I use structured Zettel for individual books or articles sometimes as a crutch to understand it better, sometimes because it's an important book and I will come to it over and over again, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I go from beginning to the end and don't have a structure note for this book. It just depends on how important the book is, how difficult it is to understand, and yeah, just on the case and not on a general rule.
This reminds me of a colleague and friend of mine, Hallo Arne, who when we give workshops for people at university about how to learn better, his go-to example is that if you have a coffee stain on your notes, like paper-based notes, this coffee stain, although it's not the thing that you wrote on the piece of paper, itself becomes a piece of information that makes remembering what's on the paper and working with this easier. And so some improvisations in the Zettelkasten archive, when they deviate from a standard layout, when they look funny, or when when they're not so well formatted, maybe because you didn't take the time at the beginning. Yeah, even that may help working with them. So cleaning up everything and having like this top-down strict methodology to create structure notes only with headings of level 1 and 2, but never 3 because that's too deep and stuff like that. That doesn't help in the end. So you just have to improvise and go with the flow and look where this leads you. This process is going.
Yes, and when you saw the structures on the book, Modernity as Illness, it looks on the top level very structured, and you see if you go down, it's very messy. It wasn't nothing that I planned in before. Very few in my archive is planned in before, but most of the time I have a cool idea, or at least I think it's cool, and then I try it, and don't have any thoughts about, okay, do I have to transform the whole archive to the new convention, or anything thing about that. The archive grows and grows, and I have notes that have like a horrible header. But then I fall back on the full text search and hope for the best. And when some notes get lost, it's okay for me, because I don't have to be perfect in this way. I try to make the best, and I put much work and effort to be meticulous. But if something is off, then you have to be cool with it, because you just imagine the alternative: not having an archive, going back to the 60s of the 20th century, and have just paperwork, or don't have the possibility of something like a full text search, or something like that. It's quite horrible, and I'm very impressed on the past research and past um, um, scientists, that they were so productive with such primitive needs. But I hope I will be more productive with a technical advantage. stand on the giants as a dwarf that I am with my.
But then get bigger and crush them.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, folks. My battery is getting low.
Mine too.
I mean, of the laptop. But I know your battery is always low.
I'm just too far.
So thanks for your Aufmerksamkeit. And see you next in the next episode of next Zettelkasten next.
Yeah.
Nice.
Drop the mic.